The wallboard will need to have relief cuts made in order for you to bend it to conform to the radius framed wall. You want to cut a 3/16 inch deep notch every 1 to 2 inches, depending on how tight the radius is. This can be done with a table saw or a skill saw. You do not want to use a razor knife to do this step because you need the width of the saw blade to remove the material, creating a void which enables the board to bend easily. Apply sealant to the 1/2 inch notch at the perimeter of the base, and you want to fill this notch 3/4 to completely full. When making these relief cuts in the board, you're not cutting all the way through the core membrane, so the board is still watertight. However, these channels are pathways where water can run down, escaping at the seam between the wallboard and the pan. To avoid this, apply sealant to the bottom edge where it'll be joined to the wedi shower base. Generously apply sealant to the board in this area and use a putty knife to press the sealant into the channels. Now, the prepared radius board is ready to bend and fit into place, compressing it firmly into the 1/2 by 1/2 inch notch of the pan. Once positioned, apply washer tabs starting 1 foot up from the base and continuing every 1 foot on the vertical studs. You'll drive the screw into place far enough that you will be compressing the board a bit, so the washer tab is slightly indented from the surface of the wallboard. Wedi wallboards are light and easy to work with. They can be easily cut with a razor knife. Make sure to cut all the way through the board to ensure you have a clean edge for a better seal when assembling. All vertical seams between the wallboard should be centered on a stud. Apply a continuous 1/2 inch bead of wedi sealant to all edges before placing the next sheet and continue to screw the fasteners into place. Place the washers over the seam between the boards to encourage a flush transition, using fewer fasteners. Once your wallboards are installed, it's a good idea to trowel back the sealant from seams. The sealant starts to cure in about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on room temperature. Always remember, the most crucial step with installing the wedi shower system is to always apply sealant generously to the joints before joining any parts. Surface applied joints will not work. You always want to apply more sealant to all inside corners of the complete shower system and trowel flat. This will act as a surface flashing in addition to the depth of seal between all parts. Use all excess sealant to cover all fasteners or apply with your sealant gun. Make sure all fasteners are completely covered, including the complete washer tab, so no metal is exposed. We're now constructing a radius bench with our 2-inch building panel. You'll need to relief cut the board on one side by running a skill saw blade 1 3/4 inch deep, every inch or less, depending on how tight you need to bend the wedi board. We're marking the angle needed at the jambs so the panel is cut to fit. Place the bench in the appropriate location and mark the area where you intend the front of the panel to be installed. Apply sealant generously to the full edges at the jambs and sill of the front bench panel. Fully compress the curved panel into place firmly to gain good adhesion and seal. Surface apply another bead of sealant to the bottom edge and trowel flat. Use your scrap material cut to the same height as the front panel and glue these to the radius back wall, acting as a ledge support for the bench top. Cut your final bench top with the appropriate radius to fit the back wall. It's easiest to dry fit the bench top to scribe the exact shape for your front cut. glue the bench top into place. Press the front edge down to create the appropriate top slope for water runoff. In essence, you're using the sealant as a wet shim to create the needed slope. Finally, apply your sealant to all seams and trowel flat. Now you're ready to cut the full foam curb to fit around the perimeter of the shower pan assembly. Using a handsaw, cut the curb to the appropriate length and angles as needed. Do a dry fit to ensure everything fits tightly. You will want to use thin set to adhere the curb to the floor while making sure to not get any thin set where you will be applying sealant between the pan edge and the curb. Apply a generous amount of sealant to the edge of the shower base as well as the wallboard where the curb will be installed. Apply thin set to the underside of the curb, then fit into place. Fully compress the curb into place, making sure that the joints are tight and the curb is square to the floor. Apply more sealant to the mitered edge of the curb where the two curb parts meet. Finally, apply the surface bead to the inside corners of the curb against the base and the wallboard, then trowel flat. We recommend applying mesh tape and modified thin set to strengthen the radius board that was relief cut to bend on the radius wall. When cured, this will become rigid and will be easier to work with when you install the surface tile. As you see, wedi is rarely challenged with even the most custom of shower configurations.